The law enforcement officials responsible for security at the U.S. Capitol on January 6 blame incomplete intelligence for the violent and deadly mob attack. Officials say the lack of intelligence is what led to poor preparations on top of the delay to call in the National Guard. So during a Senate hearing, former U.S. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund said this.
Capitol Police and responding law enforcement agencies showed tremendous restraint by not using their firearms, which would have likely led to a more chaotic situation and a possible mass casualty incident. No civilian law enforcement agency, to include the United States Capitol Police, is trained or equipped to repel an insurrection of thousands of individuals focused on breaching a building at all costs.
Officials say that although they did expect civil disobedience from a rally of Trump supporters, they were not prepared for the protests to turn into a deadly insurrection. With us now to talk more about today's Senate hearing is Bloomberg News congressional reporter Billy House. Billy, you were there on that day. And of course, we know that former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund and former House Sergeant-at-Arms Paul Irving, they appear to have differences in their assessment and the preparation and the response to the January 6th riot. So what stood out as the main disagreement?
Yeah, one major discrepancy is what lawmakers here are calling the missing hour. Sund, the former Capitol Police Chief, essentially says he asked Irving, his supervisor, about 1:09 p.m. as things were getting out of hand at the Capitol, if he could request National Guard troops. He said he made that in a telephone call. But Irving says he has no recollection of ever getting that call and that they only later talked about a half an hour later. And it took a full hour for the National Guard request to go through. Now, National Guard delayed even after that. But the question some lawmakers are asking is, how do these two key law enforcement officers disagree about the scope of an entire hour during the key juncture of the riots?
Right, that is a big question. So is this. Now, they were both informed that Congress would be a target and that some protesters plan to come armed. But what would be the typical response or intelligence assigned to that kind of advance notice threat?
Well, they all three, and it was both the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, Irving, the House Sergeant-at-Arms, and the Capitol Police Chief, said they had been getting intelligence reports, but more of the kind that these are going to be demonstrations, potentially some violence, but of the type we've seen before, the MAGA demonstrations. But what they missed was some other reports that were emailed the night before or just lost that suddenly started to show the night before the riot some social media traffic that things could be worse than they were being depicted earlier.
Did you find that they weren't monitoring closer, or what was the case the night before?
Well, D.C. Police Chief, Acting Police Chief Contee kind of summed it up in that if these were that important, these updated intelligence, why did you send them by email at 7 o'clock the night before? I mean, there's got to be a better way to alert somebody of critical information like that.
So what do we know about the Army's reluctancy to send in the D.C. National Guard to the Capitol immediately?
That's one of the open questions. There was some banter that there was a reticence to reinstitute the sort of depiction of National Guardsmen or heavily armed police that we saw outside the White House last year in Trump's infamous march to the church building and holding the Bible upside down. Mm-hmm. But we didn't learn much today. However, the leaders of both committees said that next week the Department of Defense will be with the FBI and Homeland Security officials in another hearing to explain their roles.
You know what? This led to that conversation that Paul Irving was concerned with the optics of it all. And I wonder, what did he say in response to that today?
Well, that, of course, is what the police chief, former Capitol Police Chief, said. He was told that Irving did not want National Guard on standby when he requested that 2 days before January 6th because of the optics. Irving today flatly denied ever saying that. He also flatly denied what Sund said, that he wanted to run it up the chain of command, meaning congressional leaders first. Irving denied that, too. So we have some flat contradictions between two key players here on what was said to each other.
Absolutely. And so I have to ask you about those congressional leaders. What's been their response today so far?
So far, not much. House Republicans, more so than Republicans in the Senate, have kind of tried to weave Nancy Pelosi into some of the snafus and miscues that day, suggesting that based on the police chief's claims that things had to be run up the chain of command, she helped to delay key moves. But there was no evidence of that today, and Irving and the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Michael Stenger both denied that was the case, that anything had been delayed by either Pelosi or Mitch McConnell in the Senate.
Is that what this is turning into? I mean, it seems like that sense of bipartisanship has faded. How might this show up during the course of these investigations?
Well, that's absolutely one of the worries. We have experts suggesting that maybe Congress should slow down on their public hearings and go ahead and form this independent commission, much like the 9/11 Commission did, and let this outside independent body kind of look into these things rather than have public hearings in front of TV where people can wag fingers and deny and that they said this or claim others said that perhaps it's time for a commission to get underway.
Billy House, thank you for walking us through that.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.